Joshua Bao, is there something about Jewish teaching methods, the use of questioning rather than pure memorization, that has led to creativity? And while we're at it, why do you think there were so many Jewish violin virtuosos in the 18th through 20th century? And is that changing? Is that petering out now?
Well, yeah, I was trying to think of what it is that Jews have in common that leads to them being successful in the creative world. And I thought of one thing that we all have in common. That's a Jewish mother. And at least, I don't know about your Jewish mothers, but I'm only half Jewish, by the way, but I got the mother. And
that's enough.
And you need them. That's a big. I think it's an important ingredient that is certainly for practicing, and maybe it's one thing to have a creative, genes or whatever, and having the brightness to be creative, but you do need that push. And in my case, it was from my mother. Having said that, my father was very creative himself. Actually, one of the most creative people I knew. So I guess this blows everything. But and he was a Freudian psychologist too.
Stay on point.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, that's right. But it's true. It's true about the violinist. It's almost uncanny if you look back at all the violinists, Heifetz and Ellman and Huberman and Menuhin, and then going back to Isai and Wieniawski. I mean, pretty much. 95% of them were Jewish. I mean, certainly when you're a kid, you need role models, and you need to. I think if you're a young African American kid and you think of you look at the role models. For a lot of them, it's athletics and sports, and now even golf, where we didn't have that before, and there were no black golfers. Now there's a lot of them because of the role models. And for a young Jewish kid, and they see Heifetz, I think that's a big inspiration. And so when it comes to violinists, there's been that sort of continuing series of role models and succession of continuing in that way. As far as today, you asked if it's still. I mean, but now there are Chinese mothers, which is another story. And am I going to get into trouble by saying you? But it's we have a lot of competition now in the work ethic department. Yeah, so
what was it about your teacher, Joseph?
Well, my
Gingold?
teacher was Jewish, Joseph Gingold. He came over from Russia right around the revolution. Actually, when you were saying that the Jews had the books, and that's all they had was books and words. Another thing they had were instruments. And if you think of the Holocaust, even in the concentration camps, many of them managed to have instruments, and that was one little respite of joy that they might have salvaged, was to play together. My teacher told a story, Gingold, when he was 5 years old. He was rounded up. His family was rounded up in a camp in Russia by the German army during World War I, and they were in some sort of camp. And but somehow there was one. They were all pretty much starving, and somehow one of the German soldiers saw my teacher as a 5-year-old practicing his violin. And one night, apparently, they knocked at the camp where his family was, and they said, "Where's the little Joseph?" And they were very scared. They didn't know what they were going to do. They were going to take the 5-year-old kid, and they said, "We want little Joseph." And they took him into the camp, and they asked him to play for the soldiers. And they went crazy over this little 5-year-old kid, and he came back home with 2 huge sacks full of food for his family, and it was an amazing thing. And that's something that, having the violin was something that using creativity was something that kind of saved their family in some way.
But how about you'd also mentioned to me about how he taught you, that there was something unique about how he taught you.
His approach to teaching, one of the things I treasure most about Mr. Gingold, Joseph Gingold's teaching, was the fact that he did not spoon feed me He did not tell me how to play the violin. Everything started with questions, and I guess that is a Jewish thing. The asking of questions, even in religious ceremonies, is always asking questions. In lessons, it was all questions. He'd ask me, well, what do you think about this? How do you think it should be played? And he made me think for myself and think of solutions to problems, and made me ask the right questions. And I think that's the sign of a great teacher. And now he's gone. He's died many years ago. But I don't feel like, oh my God, I don't have a teacher to tell me how to play anymore, because he gave me the tools, how to ask the right questions.
Thank you.